Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Etech Leadership Table. This is a podcast where we invite you to pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and join us as we tackle some remarkable discussions on everything leadership. I'm Melissa Wood. I'm your host. I'm the Dean of Leadership Development at Etech Global Services. All right, we're pushing through. Let's keep pushing. What about number 4?
Yeah, so that's that culture of feedback. So creating a culture where we can have open discussions, we can talk about different things. We want to have feedback. Feedback is extremely important, positive and even just the negative. Now there's, we talk about two different ways, or they talk about two different ways in here, and that's the reinforcing and the redirecting. So reinforcement, obviously, you have behaviors that are good. They're things that you want to continue. You want the team to see as good things. So you're enforcing or encouraging that behavior. You're building that confidence, right? You're teaching people that, hey, this is what we want. This is great. I get rewarded for this, or I get recognized when I do these things, and I'm going to keep it up, and I'm going to be encouraged to keep doing more and better. Everybody feels appreciated. So you want that open atmosphere, right? Redirecting, we come up with, you've got there's things that they maybe not the greatest, maybe they affect the performance of the employee, maybe they affect the team in a negative way. Maybe you have to have that disciplined conversation about something that happened. It's kind of part of the deal. It's not the great part of the deal, but it comes with the territory. You can't just give feedback though, and not, especially with the negative, you got to reinforce it with something positive. So part of the activities with this course was that they tasked us with speaking with a peer or meeting with a peer to just talk about their experiences. And I met with a gentleman, and his advice was, you're gonna have to do the bad things. It's just, again, part of the territory. But what he said is important is you don't dwell on it. You don't linger on it. It's get the discipline or the negative feedback out of the way. Just we're going to talk about it quick. We're going to get it done, and then follow it up with something positive. Hey, made a mistake. Mistakes happen. We make bad decisions, whatever. We're going to move on because you still do great things. Let's say you got a good employee that still does good things. They screwed up once. We don't want them to worry about that screw up because that's going to negatively affect them and their performance going forward. So it's hammer it, and then, hey, you still do a great job here. Keep up the great work. Let's get back out there and get back to it. So that was important. It's something I don't think a lot of people do well, but it is important to think about. So that was a good one. And then, having a feedback loop. So, I'm providing feedback to my team, or we're providing feedback to our employees, but are they giving us feedback? Are they worried about giving us feedback? Because if I don't know what I'm doing and I'm making their life miserable for some reason, if I don't know about it, I can't change it. So we want to have that open conversations. You're providing good feedback. Yeah, you're going to have to provide the negative feedback, but then, are your employees, do they feel comfortable coming to you with their feedback for you? Part of those conversations that we have, and just eliciting feedback from your team, asking them, hey, how do I do? Or what do I do that, causes you headaches?
That's a good way.
It's great to ask. You got to ask those questions. You got to figure it out. But the downside is if you ask those questions, you get that feedback from your team and they say, kind of a pain in the butt when you do this. Okay, cool. It's good to know that, but did you do anything about it? And are you going to encourage them to come to you with more? Because if you're not going to commit to action, they're not going to keep coming to you with stuff. So if you're not committed to changing anything, it's useless to ask for it in the first place.
That's real talk right there. That's why you're here because you're real. You're just spitting. In the teenage world, they would say, Jason, you're spitting facts. You are spitting facts, Jason. You're spitting facts. I love the it's very clear because you say culture of feedback. Okay, well, that's a great book title, but I love the way you broke it out to reinforcing and redirecting, right? Why is it that police officers never reinforce? They only redirect. They never pull me over and say, Melissa, you're driving so well today. It's always a redirect, right?
Yeah.
And then, you never. It's kind of like what you said in the police. Like, we should probably go and train the Police Officer Association about how we have got to, even as a police officer, you said, I only saw my boss when I did something bad. Well, there needs to be some reinforcing of your good behavior, right?
Well, the interesting part was the facilitator that put on our 8-week course or whatever. He was also former law enforcement, so him and I had a couple, good back and forth of like, man, you should really get into the police departments with this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That's golden tools. You're putting these golden tools in our backpack. I don't know about the rest of you podcasters, but my backpack is getting full over here. The other one is the feedback loop. That's beautifully said. The feedback loop, and you had some really golden things in there, and just some raw, real things in there. One thing that's helped me over the years is I ask these 2 questions. Do you want to know the 2 questions? Or you may skip them? You do?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I want to hear them.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I ask, because I get asked, Melissa, how do I manage up, like to my boss, or how do I get feedback from the people that work for me? So here's what's worked for me. I'm not saying they'll work for you, but here's 2 questions that have been very helpful to Melissa when I'm talking to my boss, or when I'm trying to manage up, or with people that work for me, or even in my personal life. 2 questions. Number 1, I say, what is one or 2 things that I'm currently doing that you want me to stop doing? You would like for me to stop doing?
Yep.
And I hush. I just hush. I just sit there until there's like, my goal here is I may not speak until they speak. Like, they have to break the silence. If we're just sitting there staring for 5 minutes, it gets really awkward. Okay? Because I'm waiting for some sort of response.
Sure.
Okay? Yep. And then I'll say, what are 1 or 2 things that I'm currently doing that you want me to keep doing? Okay, so I'm looking for what is something I'm doing you want me to stop doing? And then what are 1 or 2 things that I'm currently doing that you want me to keep doing? So that kind of goes into your feedback loop, and that helps me to reinforce behaviors that they want me to keep doing, and it redirects me. So I take ownership of it. I don't wait for my boss to tell me, or I don't wait as the leader to get feedback from those that work with me. It's been helpful to me. So hopefully that's something that will help our podcast. Maybe
those are good. Yeah, no, and one other point too that I failed to mention when I was talking with this peer too, he always mentioned, part of that to get that conversations going, and to keep your employees engaged too, in listening some of that feedback, is he said every time I have a conversation with them, I tell them something good that they're doing. And I continue to encourage that positive behavior, because he said that team, if they know that you appreciate everything that they're doing for you, they will work harder for you.
Oh, wow. I think this is a good self-check. You're taking notes here. Just think about the meetings that you've had this week. Let's say even it's with your kids. This is the leadership table, right? Because we're leading at home too. Have you given positive feedback? Have you said specifically something that they're doing that you think that they're doing really well, that you want them to keep doing? So let your walk match your talk. If you cannot go back and say this week already you have not given, I'm not talking about good job, high five. No, I'm saying, Jason, when you held these one-on-ones every week, or Jason, you cooked dinner and it was fabulous, so specific feedback. Okay. Number 5, we rocking the last two. Two.
So then we go into 5. So lead your team through change. So this one was talking about the change, or a change, process change, whatever. There's different zones in that change. There's different pieces to that change. So it's kind of a new way to think about it a little bit, and just, what it's going to take to get through change, right? So similar to, how we're setting our team up for success, you kind of have to do the same thing with change. You have to get the buy-in on the change, because again, you're going to have roadblocks. You're going to have those people who are going to, I've been doing this for, X amount of years and I'm not changing. So you're going to have to deal with that. Those are important conversations. Change is going to be the most difficult when your team's not ready to go. So take the time to understand the opposition, what might be causing pause for the team, what are things that they're nervous about or worried about, get through that, and that's going to help you along the way. Change is not always going to follow your timeline. It's, we might set out with, this is how we're doing it. It may not follow that all the time. You got to have, during your change, you got to commit to regular check-ins and discussions and share experiences, because you might have some people that are having trouble with the change. You might have some who are like, hey, this is great and I figured it out already. Are they talking? Are they sharing their success with the others, so that the others are like, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or that's cool, that probably would have helped me out. So having those conversations, having that check-in, sharing our experiences and talking about it, that's going to help you be successful with that change. But again, there's going to be bumps in the road, so you're just going to have to take it in stride and work through it. And again, having those conversations is going to help with that. And then the one that they kind of hammered home a little bit was, after the change is done, talk about the success. How did we do? Where did we get? Where did we start? And how did we get there? Once the team realizes that, hey, this wasn't so bad, it's going to make future changes go a lot better. They're going to be less resistant because, hey, we've done it before, we can do it again. So if you do it successfully, you have those conversations, you work through those problems, share the success. It's just going to be a big help to any future issues or change that you go through.
I don't see a lot of leaders doing that. That's a good reminder today about we gear up for change. We send out information, we do all that, but I don't see the follow up of the change. Like you said, like, where'd we start? How'd we get there? How'd we finish? And this kind of walking through a memory lane of, I do marriage coaching outside of work, and one thing that I learned is when you're dealing with a couple that are going through difficult times in their marriage, you need to go back to times that they've overcame things. Like, we go back, we call them pillars, right? We go back to like key stepping stones of when you've overcome something in this relationship. And I get them to tell me, in the first 5 years of your marriage, what's something that you overcame? And they walk through it. And then we go the next years, we walk through it. And when they're able to walk through like how they've overcome like change in their lives or difficult times, it helps them to resolve what's happening now. So I really like the way you're saying, go back and revisit it. It's like we just go through this change and then we move on to the next change. And I think that's such an important tool. Thank you for sharing that. That's brilliant. That's really good.
And it kind of goes in hand with kind of the project management that I've been dabbling into. And, when I was doing some other projects, I was kind of being forced to not forced, but, suggested, hey, do these check-ins and things like that. And I was just like, okay, this is just part of the process. But this just kind of hammers that point home of like, oh, okay, this is why this is helpful to do these things. And even if maybe it's not successful or maybe it's not the greatest change in the world, but now we can talk about those lessons as well. Yeah,
I love that. And that is the key pillar of project management. You're just putting all sorts of stuff in your backpack. Okay. And I know that, I'm just seeing I'm just really seeing you flourish in this leadership aspect of it, right? Just because you've got that's why we wanted to talk to you today, is you've got such real world examples and it's just so genuine. So, all right, let's hit it out of the park, or let's drive through this mud puddle on the number 6. You ready?
Yeah, so this is the last one, but I when we talk about the order at the beginning there, this one should have been number 1 as far as I'm concerned. Okay. They have it last, but neither here nor there. But it talks about manage your time and energy. Okay. I think this is, for me, this is a huge one, but so many other people in our culture today, I think, just miss this. It's you probably heard the exercise about talking about like the big rocks and the little rocks, like what's important. Too much time is spent focusing on those little rocks, and we're not making the mainstays those big rocks. So they talk about, I must manage my time and energy to be an effective leader. So, you're keeping your commitments, you are investing in relationships, you believe in taking breaks and vacations, because what they preach is that you can't prioritize your team if you don't prioritize yourself first. And this goes along with at home too. If you're not prioritizing your family, everything's coming before your family, things are going to derail, just like you talked about with your marriage counseling. So you have to really think about how you approach your life, what's important to you. Work is work, at the end of the day, something happens, they're going to replace you. Now you can still be committed to your work, but you also have to commit to those important things, those mainstays. So taking that time for yourself. My downside, I think, is they talked about setting a set schedule. If your schedule is 8 to 5, you sign on at 8 and you sign off at 5. And if you take an hour lunch, make sure you take that lunch. You don't eat at your desk and continue to work. I am very guilty of that. Where my wife will tell me, you worked till 5:30 today or whatever, we'll hear about that sometimes. So it's really starting to think about that more holistically of like, no, work is work. I'm going to get my stuff done. The work's going to be there tomorrow, regardless. Yep. When you come back, it's going to be there. You can get it done. But if I'm running around like crazy, I can't effectively manage my team. And I've seen that downfall of if I've got my head cut off and I'm just on autopilot, the team is going sideways and things aren't happening.
Absolutely.
I've seen that. I've lived it. And now I've learned to be a little bit more focused on that kind of stuff and not just like, I'm burying my head in the sand and doing my thing. And so they talk about too, just prioritizing your week. Is it Monday morning? You just kind of take 30 minutes to go through your schedule. What do I need to prepare for? How do I need to plan out my week? Or is it Friday afternoon before you sign off for the weekend? All right, here's what's coming up next week. Here's what I got to probably start thinking about on Monday, blah, blah, blah. But it's just taking that time to plan things out. Taking your vacation. You have vacation time. You have to reset. You have to get clear. Taking that time. And then, they talk about too, that what you do affects your team because they see what you're doing and they're probably going to mimic it, because if they see you working an hour after work, they're probably thinking, oh, I got to work an hour. Who's never said, well, I can't leave, the boss is still here.
That's it.
So you're kind of pushing them to do your bad habits. So you just have in law enforcement, we talk about the fishbowl. You're wearing a patch on your sleeve. You got the city on the side of your car. Everybody's seeing what you're doing. It's the same when you're the boss or you're the leader or the manager. Everybody's watching you and they're seeing what you do and they're gonna follow suit a lot of times. So it's thinking about those things, taking the time. If you got to go to a baseball practice, go. If you got to take vacation to go see friends and family, go. Take that time. Make sure you commit to yourself so that you can be the best that you can be at work.
I see why you said that should be first. I heard the saying before, if it is to be, it begins with me. And I'll tell you, I work with the John Maxwell team. I do trainings. I'm one of their certified facilitators. And let me tell you what I heard John Maxwell say about this very subject that you're talking about. It seemed like he was looking right at me, in his John Maxwell, he says he's our friend to everybody. But he said, what good is it if you're a hero at work and a zero at home?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm like, really, like, then you're really just sitting at 50%. If you're 100% at work and you're 0% at home, you're really just a 50, and a 50 is not passing. That's the way I look at it, because I have to go back to math. That's right. So, 100%. I want both my grades, to be passing, right? So, but I do really like, he's like, because sometimes I see it in leadership, like it gets contagious, right? When you're hitting numbers, you're doing good, you're doing, you're just in that momentum of doing really good. And it seems like we put all of our energy there. And we're heroes at work, and we end up being zeros in our personal life, and it starts affecting our personal health. We don't take time for ourselves and those types of things. And I like the caution that you give here, and I want to caution our podcasters is people that don't do this. So listen carefully. They don't take their vacation. They eat lunch at their desk all the time. They're not disciplined, nor are they trying to be intentionally disciplined in this area. They will try to make you feel guilty for doing it. Okay. So, just be cautious of those people. Those are what we hear about baiters, like, oh, you're signing off at 5 o'clock, or, oh, I guess you're going to go on a vacation. Those are baiting. That's just baiting you. And, that's why in the airplanes, they tell you, put your oxygen mask on who first? Who gets the oxygen mask first? That's it, right? Yep. Because that's survival. So that's one of my responses. I'm just like, I'm putting my oxygen mask on because, in order to help anybody else, I got to be able to breathe, those things first. So. All right. Well, Jason, that was awesome. You just walked us through those. I've got notes, podcasters. I hope you have notes. You have anything else you want to leave us with these 6? You got to come back because I know you've got more things in this toolbox that I want to know about. I just want to know you more, and I know our podcasters do too. But you got any final things you want to leave us with today?
I guess, yeah. I mean, the biggest thing, like I said, is really taking the time to focus on yourself. Whether it's, planning out how you're going to do your days, setting time away for yourself, but just learning, expanding your knowledge base, growing yourself. I think that's the biggest thing, is that you can't just keep doing what you're doing. People talk about, this definition of insanity, you just keep doing what you're doing and expect a different result. If you're not open and willing to change, take feedback, commit to those different things, but just learning, again, expanding your toolbox. That's what helps me learn from the lessons. Don't just fall down and go, all right, well, I'm just going to go do that again. If you're not taking anything away from it, it doesn't serve any purpose. So just be open-minded, learn what you can, talk to different people, learn and expand. That's the best thing I can suggest.
Well, you have been absolutely fabulous, and the gift of lessons is how you wrapped us up with, and it seems like you're learning from your lessons and you're able to expertly teach it to us. So we're all grateful for it, and you've got to come back because I need to know about these 10,000 lakes, and I need to know a bunch of stuff about snow that I don't know about. We got to talk. You got to send me pictures of snow. And so thank you for, again, your time, and thank you for guiding us through this crazy world of leadership and management. And until next time, podcasters, go warm up your coffee, get ready to go take a walk, take a lunch break if you need to. Jason, he's going to write you a ticket if you don't. And, we'll see you next time on the Etech Leadership Table. Thank you again. Thanks, Jason. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks. Appreciate it.